Hello everyone, my name is Rebecca and I make videos about art, books, and whatever else I feel like sharing. Today that is going to be some recent reads, aka the books I've read since the beginning of 2021 until now, the books I am currently reading, and a few books I would like to get to very soon. So let's get started. At the beginning of this year, I was really on kind of a self-help book kind of kick. So I started out the year with The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. Try not to swear on this channel, but you get the idea. I will warn you that swearing occurs frequently, if you couldn't tell already, just based on the title alone. So if you are planning on picking up this book, be aware of that. And this, I wouldn't really call it a self-help book. It's a lot more of a compilation of stories from this man's life and how to just stop caring about certain things to focus on the things you would prefer to care about, if that makes sense. I gave it about 3.5 out of 5 stars. I didn't think it was amazing, but I was interested in his way of talking about life. He also gave a lot of examples from history as well as his personal experience, which I really enjoyed hearing about. And the next book I picked up actually turned out to be more of a recipe book than a book about the subject that it is discussing, and that is The Little Book of Fika, which is sort of a daily ritual taken from Swedish culture. So I thought this was going to be a lot like The Little Book of Huga, but it is by a different author. However, it is set up very similar to that, although this one is very much so like a recipe cookbook, even though it was not labeled as such. Essentially, this goes over a little bit about the topic, and then it kind of jumps right in to recipes, which I would honestly like to try a lot of the recipes. However, I was hoping for more information about fika. So essentially what fika is a coffee break throughout the day, and it's usually enjoyed with some sort of a sweet. So cinnamon buns are really popular apparently, so there's a recipe for like the cinnamon rolls in here that I would love to try. So yeah, I gave the book 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't think it was amazing. I would have liked more information about Swedish culture and fika before getting into the recipe book, but it's super short if you would like to pick it up, and I do recommend it. And then sticking with my sort of self-help type kick I was on back in January, I read the sequel to The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, and that is Everything is F'd, a book about hope. Which, this one was much worse than the first one, I will have to say. It is set up very similarly in the sense that he speaks a lot about his personal experience while also bringing in examples throughout history. I do think some of the things he spoke about did not age well, even though this book is not that old. However, given the current state of the world, some of the things really don't apply anymore, so I didn't enjoy that as much. I still enjoyed hearing about the author's outlook on life and the world. Really, both of these books feel a lot more like a compilation of essays, more so than a full book in and of itself. So yeah, I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. It's not amazing, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. And the last self-help style book I read at the beginning of this year was Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. And this one I did not like at all. I've heard so many good things about this book, but I ended up giving it 2 stars. I think it could be really motivational for some people, but for me, I didn't like the way she went about this. It felt a lot more autobiographical than anything else, really. There were a few moments when I felt like she was really inspiring and motivational. However, I felt like a lot of her personal anecdotes could be more harmful than helpful to a lot of people. In some cases, it's sort of like, well, this situation worked out for me, but it might not work out for you. And I'm kind of wondering why you even would put that in a book if you know that, like, what you're speaking about could either be triggering or push somebody to stay in an abusive relationship or cause harm in some way. I didn't like that. So yeah, 2 stars because some of it was motivational, but I was really leaning towards a 1 with this one. I didn't like it. I finally got out of this weird self-help kick because all of those books really kind of made me feel worse, to be honest. None of them were helpful or motivational to me personally, so I kind of had a bit of a reading slump for a while, but I finally picked up Sleigh by Brittany Morris, and this one was a little disappointing, to be honest. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. In this book, it is a YA book, and we follow a teenage girl who has created this super popular VR game, but she hasn't told anyone, not her parents, her sister, or her boyfriend. And this game is meant exclusively for Black people to celebrate Black culture, which I think is really interesting, and the game sounds fascinating. There were little cards that did different actions, and that's how you battle with these cards, kind of like a Pokemon game, but in VR with really cool references to cultural aspects. However, the main issue I had with this book specifically, and I'm not sure how spoilery this is, so be aware if you plan to read the book, but her boyfriend was so rude and nasty to her, and even up until the very end, she was still defending him, which I didn't like. And also, it really seemed like the author didn't put all that much effort into researching video game code. I really love video games, and so does my boyfriend, so I made him read this book as well, and he works in IT as a systems administrator, so he's much more familiar with computer terms than I am, and a lot of the terms the author used are either really outdated or the wrong words to describe the thing she was trying to talk about. And she also kind of glossed over the fact that, this girl had to learn all this code in order to make the game. So the fact that this girl had supposedly made this entire VR game with the help of only one other person just in her spare time as a teenager is not unheard of, but I felt it was very unbelievable given the lack of any programming language even mentioned. So I didn't like that. I think there were ways you could incorporate that type of language into a story without it being overwhelming to somebody who doesn't understand what it means. I don't need to see a full page of code. However, it would be nice to be even, oh, this thing broke and I had to do this to fix it today, kind of, a little glimpse at what it might take to run this massive worldwide video game in VR that you supposedly programmed. So overall, that ended up being a 3 out of 5 stars. It definitely was not a favorite. I was hoping for much more, I think, than what it was possible to give me. And then the last book that I have completely finished so far this year, yes, I have only read 6 books so far this year. I am very behind on my Goodreads goal, but we're gonna catch up, I promise. But the next one is A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. This one I also ended up giving 3 out of 5 stars. So in this one we follow two sisters. One is a siren and one was adopted into the family and kind of seems to be showing signs of potentially being magical, some kind of magic. In this world, people don't really like sirens. They think they're dangerous. So they have like special gear for the police to not be influenced by sirens, and they have like special collars to put on people who are sirens to like stop their voice from manipulating people. I found the book very slow paced. There was a bit of a mystery going on about these children who were turned to stone in a park years ago that was kind of woven in to the story. However, it was a little confusing about what the author was trying to focus on, to be honest. I really enjoyed the fact that it was a twist on the classic siren mythology, but I did find it a little hard to keep up with what was going on because we had one of them searching for their grandmother's voice, because as a siren you can hear the voices of dead sirens because she wants to give up her siren voice. I also didn't know that this is the first book in a series, apparently, according to Goodreads anyway, and I really am not sure how there's going to be a sequel to this. It felt like everything, happened and was resolved. There was nothing really left open to explore, in my opinion, or that I wanted to hear more about. So I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars as well. I have not had a good reading year, which is why I think I am in a bit of a slump. However, hopefully I can get out of it with the books I am currently reading and planning on reading next. So let's get into those. So I am currently reading The Shining. I have to finish it in the next 4 days because it's due at the library. I'm borrowing the ebook, but I am loving this one. Of course, classic Stephen King. You have probably seen the movie, and let me tell you, the book is vastly different from the movie, and I'm honestly not sure which one I prefer more. Maybe I can update you guys once I actually finish the book, because I have a feeling the end is going to be especially different. And I have heard that Stephen King does not like the movie, so I can definitely see why at this point. The characters are quite different in the book compared to the film so far, but I am loving it. This will probably be either a 4 or 5 star read. I am also still reading Salem's Lot by Stephen King. I've been reading this since September, and I'm only a quarter of the way through, if that. I'm finding this one quite slow. However, I do plan on finishing it as soon as I can. I might rearrange where or when I read this, because I do have Felix Ever After borrowed from the library as well, and I would like to listen to that before it's due. And the other book I am in the middle of is The Vanishing Half by Britt, Bennett. So this one I am also finding to be a little slower paced. I am loving the story, but it's just a little slow. So when I'm kind of in a bit of a slump, the last thing I want to read is something that's going to be a little slower. So I have been kind of moving away from this one to pick up some faster paced books, but I've heard nothing but good things about this, and I do definitely plan on finishing it as soon as possible. And then I also have 3 books here that I want to read before the end of April. I'm not sure how feasible that will be, but I would like to, because 2 of them are environmental and it is Earth Month, and they are all on my TBR or trash list for the year, and I haven't read a single book from my TBR or trash list yet, so I need to get on it. So first we have Hot, Living Through the Next 50 Years on Earth. So this one is all about climate change. I'm thinking it might be a little bit dated, when was this written? 2012 is not that long ago, but still, a lot can happen in about 10 years. So this one might be a little bit dated, but I am interested in seeing that as well, because then I can compare how things have changed. Similarly, this one I know is dated. I think it was written in the 2000s, like 2004-ish. And that is Red Sky at Morning, America and the Crisis of the Global Environment, a Citizen's Agenda for Action. And I am really interested in seeing what this author suggests for the course of action, and to see if we have been taking it at all or if we have been ignoring it completely. And lastly, because the show is coming out and I haven't read a single one of these books yet, and my boyfriend, I let borrow this book and he read the entire series and loved it and has been bugging me to read it for years now. And that is the Grisha series, and that is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. And there are 2 others in the first trilogy, and then I believe a duology, and then another sort of companion book in the same world. I think, I could be wrong, but we're gonna start with the trilogy and go from there. So hopefully I can at least get to this first one before the show comes out. And I think that's everything. So this was a little bit chaotic and rambly, but I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!